Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. Great program today. Spencer Doman is with me. He's the CEO of Doman International, which is an organization, a group of people that have been helping families with a special needs child for the last 65 years. They probably do it better than anybody in the world. Spencer Doman, The Good Life, is next. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you've joined us. You can always find us at goodlifetelevision.org. About 70 interviews from the last year. Amazing people, all walks of life, famous, not famous, nonprofit, public servants, elected officials, overcomers, young people. We've had a little bit of everything. So hope you'll join us at goodlifetelevision.org. I'm so excited about my guest today. Spencer Doman is with me. Spencer is the Chief Executive Officer at Doman International. Spencer, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Our family and the Turner Foundation actually as well go back quite a ways with Spencer, with his father, Douglas, who's the president of Doman International, and Spencer's grandfather, who I want to talk about in a second, but we go back quite a ways. And Spencer, I thought I'd start by just me giving a very brief introduction on Doman's work. First of all, Spencer, by the way, holds a master's in education from Westchester University of Pennsylvania. And Doman International is a nonprofit organization dedicated to teaching and empowering parents in the development of their child. For the last, it's now 65 years, the Doman family has been helping families with a special needs child. And I would say, this is my opinion, and it's probably actually the opinion of a lot of other people, that these folks know more about how to help special needs children than anyone else in the world. And I can say that with a pretty high degree of confidence. Spencer, why don't we start? Tell us, well, and I thought when I wrote this morning, I actually wrote the title, Growing Up Doman. I think that could be like a sitcom. Tell us what it was like to grow up a Doman, and tell us specifically a little bit about your grandfather.
Yeah, sure. So, talking a bit about my own childhood. So I grew up actually on the grounds of the campus of the clinic where my grandparents and my parents worked day in and day out with families of kids with special needs. And so, at age 5 or 6, you would have found me like in the waiting room with the families and with the children. And so I grew up in this amazing environment surrounded by kids with special needs. And, obviously as a child, you don't think that your experience or your upbringing is any different from anyone else's. I just thought this is the way life is,
Right.
My family works with kids with special needs. But reflecting back on it now, it was a beautiful place to grow up because I think I learned certain values that were, it was just a part of my family life, a part of the environment. And those are values that we continue to carry at Doman International. And so, some of the first things that just come to mind are things like every kid with special needs has an innate intelligence and a great potential. This was something that I constantly heard because the way that so much of the world views kids with special needs, there are so many limiting beliefs out there, right? There are some professionals who believe that kids with neurodevelopmental conditions can't be helped, that they're essentially hopeless. And then there are also, I would say, maybe well-meaning individuals who want the very best for these kids, but again, they don't think that the kids really, can that their condition can get better, or they believe that the children, aren't capable of understanding. They don't know that these kids are actually often highly intelligent and very, very capable. And so, Yeah, I grew up in this kind of beautiful environment, and it all began with my grandfather, Glenn Doman, who, as a physical therapist in the 1940s, actually found that a lot of the things he had been taught in school were not achieving results with his patients. And at that point, he was working with people who had suffered brain damage, mostly through strokes. And I think, fortunately for the world, he was a very impatient person, and so he was just driven to find answers. And when he found, okay, what I learned isn't working, I've got to find something that does. And so he began the process of creating his own methodology, which is now called the Doman Method. He didn't call it that, but kind of his admirers and parents who loved his work named it that, and we kind of used the name in his honor. But yeah, so he created a series, a system of different treatments that can be used with kids with special needs. And to be clear, sometimes even when I say special needs, people aren't sure who I'm talking about. So we're talking about kids with any kind of neurodevelopmental condition. They could have been diagnosed with autism, cerebral palsy, even genetic conditions like Down syndrome, where their brain development has been affected. And so what he did, he found the techniques that really reaped results for these children, that got, that immobile child, getting them walking, getting that speechless child talking, the child who had learning problems, getting them succeeding in schools. And then he started to empower the families with that knowledge. He believed that the best way to help a kid with special needs was by giving the families the solutions that they could start to incorporate at home. And that's what we still do at Doman International.
And I'm one of those families. We brought our daughter there 16 years ago, and it was changed our life. And one of the things I always remember, Spencer, is kind of this spectrum, although that's overused, I think. But there's kind of this spectrum. You guys changed. You really changed definitions in a sense, and that was one of the things that simplified it for us. So there are dozens of diagnoses, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but there are dozens of diagnoses that people come out with. But what you guys do is really simplify it to all one. It's all brain injury. So whether someone is in a coma on this side, all the way to dyslexia, ADD on this side, what you guys believe and what you taught us is that people can get better. So from the coma to the dyslexia, ADD, mild brain injury, you guys believe that people can get better, especially children. And one of the quotes I'll never forget from 16 years ago, me sitting in that lecture hall, was, "There's no such thing as false hope. There is such a thing as false despair." Talk about that.
Yeah. So there, for so many parents out there and families with kids with brain injury, there's a lot of false despair. And very often it starts early on. It could be a doctor, it could be a teacher, or some other kind of professional who kind of tells parents, your child has this condition. Like you said, it could be anything from something very severe like a coma or a profound brain injury, all the way to a child with maybe mild learning difficulties. But that parent is often told something quite similar, where it's, your child has this condition, this is incurable, your child doesn't really have a chance. And so, you just kind of have to come to terms with this.
Wait and see. That's what we were told. Wait and see. We don't know what's going to happen. Wait and see.
Exactly.
We were waiting to not see anything.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that leads to despair, because parents are just stuck in this moment of uncertainty, or this eternity of uncertainty about what to do next. And so, yes, we bring hope to parents, but we try to bring real hope. And I think when a lot of people hear that term brain injury, for some parents that might be a scary term. The idea that, wow, my child has this problem in their brain. But keep in mind that for many decades, science has known about a phenomenon called neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to rewire itself and heal. And so the brain is an amazing organ. And it's very fortunate that our brains have this ability, because it means that we can even, if we've lost an ability, we might be able to get it back. Or if we are given the right kinds of stimulation, or we're given the right kinds of opportunity, or we engage in the right activities, our brain can heal.
And grow, right?
That's right. That's right.
We sat in that hall for 50 hours the first time we came, learning about the brain. This little, how heavy is it?
I think it's 8 pounds, I think.
Right. So this little thing, 8-pound thing, it is unbelievable when we learned about the human brain. I mean, if you don't believe in God and you were to study the human brain, I think you might start. I can't just fathom the idea that this happened by accident. This human brain is unbelievable, what it can do. And I was going to use that word. You beat me to it. It's the longest word that I've ever used on this program, neuroplasticity. So it actually can, as you say, rewire, change, grow with use, like a muscle. Muscles grow with use, and the brain can grow. Am I saying this correctly?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And neuroplasticity is also something that stays with us throughout our entire lives. It's not something that's only for children, which is why, anyone, regardless of age, if they have any kind of brain injury or a neurodevelopmental condition, they can progress. And so that's why, and by the way, this is why, if a parent is told by someone, your child is hopeless, that is contradicting what science is telling us. It's essentially dishonest to say a child can't get better. You don't know that, right? No one knows that. All we can say is, okay, here are the challenges that the child is having as a result of their brain injury, and then what are the solutions that might be able to help that area of the brain get better.
It's a spectacular vision that you all have. Hard work over 65 years. And so, because I'm a dad, so we come to the institute, to your location in 16 years ago, and we had Ella Claire had a stroke in the womb, 2/3 of her brain wiped out, and we were told the same thing, like, wait and see, we don't know what's going to happen. And then they'd send somebody over to rub her hand, and which didn't seem to be working. I'm not a doctor, but it didn't seem to be working. But we come out to you guys, and you gave us a program, and she went from kind of being on the floor, growing tighter with every passing month, and not doing anything and not developing, to the opposite. And so and it was because of what your grandfather learned and what you all are teaching. And folks, so if you're watching this, people come from all over the world to get into the room with these group of folks who know so much about the brain, and it's life-changing. I mean, it is life-changing what you guys do, Spencer. I want to introduce this because we only have a few minutes left. I want to introduce this interview that we're having right now is far too short, and this is kind of like a teaser, because the Turner Foundation and Doman International are in the process of developing a partnership that will begin in 2021, probably when most people are watching this, on behalf of brain injured children. One of the things we want to do, and Spencer, I want to let you comment on kind of the Doman side of the equation, but one of the things that the Turner Foundation has an interest in doing is helping families with a brain injured child, or it could be adults, but specifically we're thinking a lot about children, helping them discover Doman International, because Doman International is an organization that can help them, guide them, and it makes a huge difference in the lives, obviously, of the child and the family as a whole. So we're going to be doing a series of interviews with Spencer, with his father, Douglas, the president of Doman International, where we go in great detail and depth into what to do about your brain injured child, what to do when you bring home an autistic child, a Down syndrome child, a cerebral palsy child, or your child just having learning difficulties, like Spencer mentioned, or behavioral challenges. So we are really excited to get this word spread on Good Life TV about Doman International and about how families can help their child. Spencer, you want to add anything to that?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, at Doman International, we're really, really excited to be able to use, this wonderful platform, which is Good Life TV, to talk to families. Because what we've really been trying to do over the last several years is make our program as accessible as possible to families around the world. I mean, this from your experience, Dean, but even if we go back, more than a few years ago, families, just to get the knowledge that we were teaching, would have to fly in from all different parts of the globe, often have, to take our course, they would have to leave their child at home. And that can be very difficult for parents, especially for kids with special needs. And so, one of the things that we did, for example, last year, which was before the age of COVID. We didn't realize that this was around the corner, but we launched our Doman Method course online. So this is our first course for parents. It's 4 weeks long, but we teach parents how to utilize the Doman Method at home with their children and get started with a treatment program for their kids. And so, we want to keep making the Doman Method more and more accessible for families out there. And so, being able to be here and just talk directly with families is really a beautiful thing.
Spectacular. So we're going to kind of be doing two things, and we got to wrap it up here. But if you're watching this, so we're kind of doing two things here with this partnership. One is we're going to be talking about the solutions. We're going to be talking with Spencer, with Douglas, with others at Doman International who can point parents in the direction that they need to go. So if you're watching this and you know a friend who just had a child with special needs, if somebody's had a stroke, if somebody's had an accident of some kind, a car accident, traumatic brain injury, anybody in these categories, these are the people you need to meet, or your friends need to meet, who are in that situation. I can guarantee you these are the people you need to meet because they can help. So that's one thing. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to tell the great stories. So we're actually going to be telling the stories of the families who have been on the program, who have experienced miracles. I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle, Spencer. When you have a child who doesn't talk, and I've met people like this, and all of a sudden they're talking, who doesn't see and can see, who doesn't walk or move and can crawl or walk. This is like, I'm getting chills talking about this. This is big stuff. Like, this is miracle stuff. We're going to be talking to these families and featuring them on the program. Not only the child who experiencing the miracles, but the parents. Oftentimes these parents lay down their lives 24/7 to care for them. And my wife is one of them, to care for these children, to help them get better, to give them every chance, every opportunity to get better. We want to honor those parents. And so we're going to be doing those two things. I am, if you can't tell, very excited about this. And Spencer, I'm so excited to be working with you, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. So thank you for coming on today, and we'll be getting this message out, and we're looking forward to lots more interviews to come.
Thanks so much for having me, Dean.
Spencer Doman, CEO, Doman International. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.